Good morning, folks. Today on the Collective Perspective, we have Spacebug here, and we have her, what is his cousin?
Nephew Sabin.
Nephew, Sabin. And today we're going to be talking about a lot of different things.
And Dupe. We also have Dupe.
I'm also here. I'm Dupe. we have a smorgasbord of things to do today. We have tarot. We're gonna start with that.
We want to start every episode with a tarot card pull to help teach you guys what they mean. So today we have the Wheel of Fortune. It's about completing cycles. It's about things going up and down. Like if something's going well, it's going to have to then taper off from that. Destiny is indicated by the Wheel of Fortune.
My experience with the Wheel of Fortune is definitely like when I see it, like anytime I see that sign, which I've also been seeing it a lot lately, it usually means it's a time for a new chapter, and or you're moving on to the next thing. So you're gonna be faced with anything that's left behind that you haven't been, that's unchecked, and then if you can get past it, I mean you're destined to get past it. Like that's the thing. It's like your like canon events.
Nothing can stay bad forever.
Yeah, pendulum is swinging both ways there. Mm-hmm.
So there you go, guys. That's the Wheel of Fortune, and we will cover one card every week so that you guys can learn the deck.
Can I see it again?
Yeah. The corner animals are supposed to be the elementals, also represented by the sign of Scorpio. All four of those animals are indicators of the zodiac sign of Scorpio. But then
I like that card.
And this is the Gummy Bear Tarot. Anybody who loves cute stuff should get it.
I love that.
Now, we're going to talk about psychedelics and plant medicine today. Because my nephew's an expert, and since he's visiting for the podcast, we wanted to talk about stuff that we know.
Makes sense.
I personally prefer acid.
Me too.
That's just
I'm a
me.
mushroom guy. I like acid. I just can't find it usually.
Why do you prefer mushrooms to acid?
I can find it. I would say that mushrooms have been a gentle teacher for me. I feel like a lot of my recovery from PTSD, I attribute to mushrooms helping me digest a lot of things. LSD though, or acid in general, I would feel like is really good at recoding and reorganizing information within inside your brain. And I feel like it's more of a inner experience, and outer experience, where mushrooms, I feel like it's a more inner experience. That's just to me though.
No,
what are your experiences?
That's my exact experience, but not gentle teacher. Mushrooms for me are a very hard teacher. It's rarely do I trip on mushrooms and just have a super enjoyable time for 4 hours. There's always a lesson. It's always internal. I go the deepest when I do a mushroom trip. Whereas, like you said, for me, LSD, it's very external. The world is alive. The world is vibrant. The world is speaking to me. Usually much happier the entire time. There's usually not so many hard lessons. If there are lessons, they're graceful with LSD.
For me, acid, I go straight into 0 point. I go into the one unifying force of all. It's definitely not external. But that's just, but I don't do mushrooms. Like I just don't. So
have you ever considered it, or?
I mean, I've tried them. I just, when I was younger, I didn't trip the same way on mushrooms. I guess for me, it's the opposite. Mushrooms are the external experiencing the world type of thing. And acid is going straight into God.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, everyone has their way of going about it. I definitely feel like, for me at least, like mushrooms have been gentle. Like because when I first started, I was actually really nervous about, like, after going back from the military and then trying mushrooms. Like I was very nervous because I was like, yo, I know I have PTSD, so like don't be crazy, please. Like just be
There is
nice.
definitely a fear of or any psychedelic and trauma coming up, because you're stuck in that state for several hours. You don't want to be stuck in a state of panic for several hours.
Yeah,
I think that's what stops most people.
Yeah. From panicking?
No, from taking psychedelics.
Gotcha.
They're afraid that there's going to be this pouring in of trauma from their childhood or whatever. It's going to break them.
I noticed though, I think that it has a lot also to do with like the environment in which you do it. So if you're in a safe place and you're trying to do some trauma recovery, so like I was at my house in my place with my girlfriend, like in a place that I trusted in and I felt safe. for my first time after the military, and I remember it opening me up a lot. And I remember there was a message, like I remember at the beginning of the trip, like I talked to the mushrooms and I was like, yo, please be easy. Like I can't, like please be nice.
I really like that about the way you do your psychedelics, that you talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta something's gotta work. So if pleading will work, then I will plead. And but I remember like getting this synchronicity, and it was just telling me to say, feels good, man. Like anytime it feels like a lot, just feel like the mantra was feels good, man. Buy the ticket, take the ride. And I would just tell that to myself all the time. And I'm
Buy
like,
the ticket,
feels
take
good.
the ride.
Strange.
Yeah, it feels good. Like I was telling, and then I remember like I get that in my mind, and I would think about like how just being alive feels good. Like it feels good right now. This feels good, even though I'm not really doing it.
Static.
But you know what I mean. Like it feels good. You have to keep that mindset, and then it lets you kind of like get out of any weirdness. Because I remember there were some times where I did see some weird shit though, and I was like, oh no, I gotta get out of here.
For Dupe, I've noticed in his stories, he tells me that the environment guides his trip. Like with the baby spider leg thing,
Yeah.
or the way that those stacked rocks came up for you. Like whenever he's got a lesson to learn, the mushrooms seem to take hold of the entire world he exists in, and they walk with him through his journey.
Really?
It's been
Yeah, so I guess that's you brought it up in a way that I don't really think about explaining it to people because I'm experiencing it. So like but yeah, I do feel like that. Yeah, I feel like if my known sense of reality was a box, then I feel like the mushrooms are on the outside of that box, but they are like moving stuff around.
Inside.
Yeah. And as long as I'm paying attention, I feel like everything starts to show me, like it's guiding me step by step to some type of lesson. And I've noticed that the only times where the lesson feels like a lot is where I'm scared because I know exactly what I'm supposed to do usually. And I'm like,
that's why all my lessons are hard.
yeah. But there's always like this weird medium because like I know what I'm supposed to do, but sometimes I'm not supposed to do it right now. Because you're on mushrooms, so you're not supposed to do it right now. You're supposed to know that that's what you're supposed to do. Like I had one about like getting out and like like reactivating like a few things like out in my environment. Like I need to go out and reintegrate. But obviously I can't do that on mushrooms. But when I'm on mushrooms, I'm like, dude, I should just be able to go outside. And I'm like, but no.
Please stay in your own yard when you're experimenting with psychedelics. Rule of thumb: we're not condoning any drug use here because we don't do that. No. But if you do it on your own accord, stay in your yard.
Yeah, and have a safety buddy.
Legally, he does not have a opposing perspective, but non-legally, he can go ahead and say what he wants to say.
Non-legally, without offering any advice to anybody, I will say that if you find yourself in a position, if you own land and it's your property, let's say.
Right, that's your yard.
Your yard, exactly. If you can be around nature, no matter the psychedelic, I find something about being in nature makes it come through clearer. I mean, if you live in New York City, you live in New York City.
Just don't get in a car.
Driving's not the funnest at all.
No.
Now, I know that Dupe has told me a lot of his experiences with mushrooms include synchronicity. Have you noticed the same thing?
I believe my experience in general includes synchronicity. I think that's a part of being human. Awakened. And when you become aware, you start to see things. I feel like when I take mushrooms, somewhat, but especially LSD and DMT, the veil is completely removed. I see more clearly than I can bring back from the trip. Usually when I'm on the trip, I see things so clearly. And I find myself in the state of befuddlement, laughing at myself for feeling these normal human feelings I felt before. And a lot of that comes back after the trip. A lot of it doesn't.
I think that we can only handle so much of the truth. Yeah. And so when we come down off the psychedelics, that's lubricant to the truth. We can only bring so much with us without breaking our brain.
So, Dupe, I'd like to ask you about integration.
Okay.
What do you have any integration process? Do you notice any integration like after the trip? How's that been like for you?
Okay, so that's actually the most important part of the trip. Like, it's
that's
not
what I wanted to ask. Thank
how
you.
to digest that shit because it is dense, and depending on what your lesson was, it's not easy, and it's never linear.
Right.
How I do it during my trip, actually, I actually retain a lot of my functionality, so like I can write. And use technology and things.
Yep.
So I usually just write down like really brief notes, or I'll like draw a picture. That usually is a way easier for me. I draw like a little scribble, but I'll because I do a lot of meditation practice already and active imagination, like my dream recall is really good. So my hallucinogenic recall is actually really good too. But yeah, like the biggest thing is that I have to write down all the points and as much as you can. Like I write down as much as I can, and then I like systematically, like I have to figure out what they mean. So I understand that when I get synchronicities or messages, that like they're not like the message isn't the thing, it's what that thing means to you, because it's your brain talking to you.
Symbolism is always personal.
Through the symbolism, exactly. And so I have to spend a little bit of time thinking about the symbolism, but then it's like I have to settle on the symbols, and then after I understand which symbols were shown to me, I like open up my perspective and I pay attention to how my world has changed since then. And so sometimes I'll get those symbols, they'll start to follow me throughout like the next week or so. As I'm integrating these new knowledges, I'm watching these symbols unfold, and I'm like, okay, so that's the rest of the message. That's this, that, and then you have to, just pay attention. Because like, I've had messages where it was talking about like the cycle of life and death. And like I can't even remember if I was on anything on this one. I think this happened. But I was definitely following a chain of synchronicities. And no, I was microdosing. That's right. I was on mushrooms. But I saw this bird one day when I was walking, and I was on this whole trip about like reincarnation. And I was trying to understand it. And during this trip, I saw this bird, and they were filling in like spots on the sidewalk for telephone poles. The bird was right off the side of the telephone pole, and he was like sick, and like he looked like he was about to die, like because he was on the floor, couldn't fly. And I was looking at him, and I was like, oh my gosh! And I was telling Nikki about these life, like these reincarnation synchronicities I was getting, and then we come upon this bird, and I was like, look, babe, it's happening right now. Look. The universe is telling us something
about to reincarnate.
The bird, and I'm just like, dude, I don't think you're gonna make it. Like, I was like, but I'm here to witness like your last moments. Like I'm here. Like
you're not alone.
Yeah, I was like, you're not
alone. You have
a
spiritual shepherd with you.
Yeah, and I remember him like flipping on his back, and like I remember like locking eyes with this bird, and I remember hearing in my head, I was like, it was saying that your heart can be a vessel for souls like in between. So like when he dies, he's gonna hang out in my heart, and then he's gonna reincarnate back into my reality because I kept him in my heart. And
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, well, you returned to God.
It's brilliant.
That's where God is.
Immediately after I got that message, like the universe put it into action. The bird got back up, stumbled a little bit, and fell in the hole where the telephone pole was. And I was like, oh shit, like should I help it? And like me and Nikki were both looking like, should we go and look like if he's okay? And I had this feeling like, no, like don't look, because that's the part you're not supposed to see. Like you got
no one should have to be observed in their death.
Exactly. You saw him for the last second while he was alive and going through it, but he trusted you. Hold that image of him in your heart. And then like I feel like it was like 2 or 3 days later, we continued walking. We didn't look. We go around the block, and then right in front, like we were finally done with the walk, and right in front of our house, the right in front of our door, a little baby chick was in front of our door, a little baby bird. And I was like, oh shit, it happened. Look, he's there, babe. And she was like, like she couldn't even. And I was like, no. And then like the bird saw us like freaking out, like, oh man. And it got so scared that it pooped. And then it flew. Because it didn't know how to fly. It was still a baby. It had like baby like down and it didn't know how to fly. It was kind of like flapping. And I was like, the other bird didn't know how to fly either when we saw it. And so it was like, it was just perfect synchronicity. And it saw us, freaked out, and then it flew off. And then that was the end of that like synchronicity chain. And the whole thing was, it was telling me the story of like that's why you hold people in your heart, because when you do, like their spirit can come back into your reality, and they'll fill a different vessel of some sort, but the spirit comes back to you because like it's a part of you. Like those people, the thing,
all things are,
it's a part of you, and in your heart can be a place of holding that.
And this is why mushrooms are the great teacher. And I don't have to have experienced it in order to believe it. I got two very trustworthy people here who are saying it's true, and from listening to their stories, I can tell it is.
Because it was just trying to tell me to not be scared of like death. Like, and let go of.
That's the first lesson.
But to watch the fucking way it played out, that's just beautiful.
Yeah, because like it was less talking about like my death and more talking about like other
death of others.
Like, yeah.
The loss of those close to us.
Yeah, because I think I was still processing the loss of some of my friends. And you know, I mean, to this day, it's still a hard lesson. But after I had that experience, I wound up getting a little necklace with a bird head on it, and it had like a Trinity symbol on it. It's really cool. Anyway, but yeah, that happened.
So when you talk about like you tell me the story, and I can feel it, but like when you saw the chick, it wasn't just like seeing any chick. It was like the universe almost stopped. Like it screamed at you, right?
Oh
like
my gosh!
The synchronicities yell at you. They grab your attention.
Yeah.
You know for your personal perspective that this is the universe screaming at you.
Yeah, that's something to pay attention to. Humanity. When something is supposed to be noticed, you're gonna notice it. Don't discount it as coincidence. There are no coincidences. Pay attention.
Yeah. I mean, I feel
especially if you're asking for a lesson.
Yeah. If you're asking for it, the universe can give it to you.
Yeah. Ask and you shall receive. Okay, let's talk about something that none of us have ever done. As far as I'm aware, Doops never done this either. I eventually want to go do ayahuasca in South America. And
same.
I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Mother ayahuasca, the serpent, that's so totally in line with everything that I believe that I just really want to try it.
It's part of my chat GPT story.
Is it?
The final brew was actually like made of ayahuasca. It just says like in the story, it just says like jungle vine, but it's obvious.
Yeah.
I think ayahuasca is exceedingly powerful. I haven't tried it. I don't know anything. Right. Like I don't know how I would even.
We'll all go do it together.
No.
Yeah, I would be interested though. I've seen a lot of the artwork that comes from that experience, and
I believe it lasts a little longer than the traditional, plant medicine.
Yeah.
So the thing with the ayahuasca experience is like from what I'm seeing, I know a few people have done ayahuasca firsthand. I've never done it, but the people that go and do the retreats, there's always a major life change, like a major change in like their career, their relationships. Yeah. They totally get aligned to like nature and ancient ways. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if there's so much of a teaching aspect. I know that there definitely is, but not in the way, from what I've seen, not the changes aren't internal changes like happen on mushrooms, like changes in character, changes in softness and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's usually major abrupt changes in how you show up in this world.
It's putting you back on your path.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
perhaps.
I've also had like theories that like what if like when you take these mushrooms or like any of these the psychedelics, you just not you anymore. Like what if you're just a mushroom head? Like you don't even know, you're just like, hey man, there's only mushrooms in here now.
Well, if you think about it,
we are the mushrooms.
Well, that's what fungi is here to do. That's what they do. They take over things. So if you think about it, every time we take mushrooms, we start getting this different thought process. It's almost like they've moved on from the plant world to the human world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some zombie shit.
It's kind of
I talk to them, man, and I'm like, yo, like I feel it though. I feel it like when I do take mushrooms, like because I feel it like it's a second, like another presence inside of me. And
it is. They're alive.
Yeah, it feels very alive.
Spiritually aware.
They have a very, very true spirit. I mean, all psychedelics too, but mushrooms are very, very true.
Yeah, and I feel like the more like since I've taken so much in the past, like now I only feel like I need like just a little bit to get in contact with whatever part of it is still hanging out inside of me. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like it's hanging out like it's there to a degree at all points now. Like I feel like before mushrooms I was so tight. And there's a tightness that like never comes back because you let go of it, like you've gotten over it. But I also feel like if I need to like tap into the mushrooms that are within me, I feel like I could reach into my own mind and tap into that. But if I am struggling to do that, or I'm ready for like another lesson, all I have to do is take a very little bit of amount, and I can still get that experience and without having to trip too hard, because I'm so familiar with what that spirit feels like. It doesn't feel foreign to me anymore. Like it feels like, oh, hey, like, all right, it's time. Like we're doing the thing. How you doing? How you been? What's the thing? Hey, baby, love you.
Hey, Nikki.
So
I feel like I missed out on some things with the mushrooms because I don't do them, but maybe and it's not to be all ego, but maybe I already have that lesson sometimes. I think that we all have our own different ways. And I've never never really had a strong grasp on reality. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
I feel like mushrooms really I feel like they ground me more than anything. Like they ground me back into my body. Like I feel like mushrooms are great for when I've been like swathed in like digital stuff, or like I feel like I've smoked too much weed, like I feel really hazy, or I feel like I'm falling back into like repeating patterns of behavior.
Let's
Or
start
just
doing
stuff.
mushrooms, guys. Episode 50. You're gonna have a different report from me.
Let's hear your LSD experiences.
Oh yeah, let's hear that.
Or whatever psychedelic you want to talk about.
Like I said, I set intention, and everyone, I think that this is important. Psychedelics are not just to go out and have a fun time with your partying friends. Psychedelics are a lesson in universal consciousness. So I always set intentions. I write down my intentions, and my intentions generally are to revisit the all, 0 point, God, whatever you want to call it. And that's what I do. I trip, I go in. One time, I have pretty good recall too, because I hallucinate in waking life, but I was in the center of oneness, so Krishna, Vishnu, whatever you want to call it, and it was a breathing apparatus. It was like, and I believe this is true, breath is what makes us animate. It was what makes our consciousness tied to a body. Your astrological chart is determined from the moment you draw your first breath, and when you draw your last breath, that's when you reincarnate. So I think something to do with the way that is, in a way, what binds us to consciousness. And I don't know how to explain it any better than that, but that's where I was at. And then I think that all reality, all dimensions are just existing on the backs of other realities. So all of our cells are mirror reflections of cells in another dimension. And that's something else I learned on acid. I think squids also constantly trip on acid. Like they have that mind state, because if you watch the way that they flare, they're like bioluminescence. I feel like I can feel my brain pulsing in those same colors, and it's not like that's an hallucinogenic like visual. It's like a experience.
Sense of knowing,
that you're literally lighting these neuron fires, and I think that's just the way that squids exist all the time. So I don't have good stories. I can't tell a story the same way.
Well, stories are cool, but like you touched on a lot of things like that are important, like setting an intention. Yeah. Like you said you like to talk to the mushrooms. You say you like to talk to set an intention. For me, I pray. Yeah. It's the same thing though. There's this. You're contacting the spirit of the mushroom or the psychedelic or whatever, and you're asking for help. You're opening yourself to it. And what really kills me, like with LSD, what's the half-life? I don't know, 12 hours, something crazy like that.
Yeah, 12 hours about.
But when we talk about integration, how is something that you took 3 days ago still affecting your reality in ways that not only do you see synchronicities, it's things that are so out of this world that you wouldn't be seeing this blue fork that reminded you.
Because it's just not affecting your biology.
It's not just affecting your biology.
Your consciousness.
And that's where I really get to with this is when you're talking about affecting a spirit, you use the term bringing spirits in, like bringing the spirit of the mushroom in, and then you feel yourself kind of get distant from that, but then you take some more mushrooms and you feel that spirit again. I feel the same way, and I feel it's like when I'm getting farther from my center point, I'm getting more into the ego. I'm getting more into the false self. The mushrooms, the LSD, the DMT bring me back to my true self, to the all, to the 0 point.
Mm-hmm. When I start hating people in reality, that's when I know I need to start doing acid. If I can find that infinite love, which is if you consider it, when you feel like you're one with the all, that's love. There's no other way to put it. Love is magic. Love is everything. So if I can do the acid and go back into that point, then I have a huge tolerance for the bullshit that I thought I couldn't handle before. It's like I remember that we're all one, and there's no point in getting angry because it doesn't do any good.
And then 6 months later, you find yourself cussing the traffic.
Yeah, and then I'm like, what is going on?
Like, all right, it's
time
to
drop some more acid and then go back down and remember my empathy or my connection to the world.
I think deep prayer and meditation access the same thing.
Well, actually, there was research done that says that acid physiologically is the same experience in the brain as a monk in prayer.
Yeah.
This is a real research.
Studying for like 30 years.
Somebody who's doing their like mantras or whatever. This is the same brain firing neurons, exact same amazing reseach. This was a long time ago.
That makes a lot of sense because like when I took acid for the first time, like that's when like all the like I had like me and mushrooms were cool, but acid turned on everything. Like,
I think everyone should do acid at least once.
Like I feel like do the mushrooms first to clear out your system and like get your feet wet and get acclimated. But when I took a high dose of acid, that's when I learned the language of synchronicity, and it never went away. Like we talked. It was like, let me sit you down. But I wasn't sitting down. I was walking.
Let me change everything about the way you see the world.
Yeah.
Who's the guy who did the Ancient Apocalypse series? Do you know?
That's
Who's the guy who did the Ancient Apocalypse series?
Who did that?
Yeah, what was his name? I don't remember.
I don't ever ask me a name.
He mentioned that he thinks every president should have to drop LSD. If you're going to run for president, if you're going to be in charge of people, you should have to drop LSD. And I think that that's brilliant. I think everyone should do it once, but I definitely think people in control of other people's lives need to experience what it's like to care about the world.
Yeah, well, I think it's so important. The amount of empathy.
Everyone's like, fuck that, I don't want the president to do acid.
No, not that at all. Not that at all. I do believe, though, and I don't know have you had any experience like you like psychedelics, you believe they heal? Have you tried giving them to other people, try sharing, not illegally, of course, but
we don't break the law.
I have, and I realized that
this is all theory.
When
I break the law. This is not a theory for me. This is not my podcast. I break the law. I don't listen to the government.
But we don't want you to.
Don't, unless you want to.
I noticed that usually people won't take them if it's not their time.
Like, he's got a really good story about this. A friend of his.
My friend Chris.
Oh my God, this is another good story.
Big story. So let me tell you about my friend Chris. Chris, if you're out there, you listen to this ever one day, I love you, and
we love you, Chris.
But he's never experienced mushrooms before, and he was ready to confront some of his past traumas, and so he'd been kind of getting himself ready to have mushrooms. And so he's like cleaning out his house. He's like doing stuff. Now, mind you guys, like Chris is a very country guy. There's a lot of stuff that has happened in his past. I'm not going to get into it because it's his business.
Right.
But the big thing is that like he needed help learning like care, like a deep mushroom care. You know how that care that mushroom teaches you. It was care and cleanliness too. And
how to survive on your own.
Yeah, how to be independent. And so yeah, I get everything ready for Chris. I get him a little jar. I fill it full of a smoothie. It was like mango chunks and oranges. And I put that, and then I put the mushrooms in there, golden teachers, mix it up, and I have it in this nice jar. And Chris, I give it to him, and he's just like, yes, I'm so excited. This is gonna be great.
Change your life.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, dude, like don't take. He's like, I'm only gonna take a little sip at a time, like so that way, like so I'm not, I just want to do this responsibly. I'm like, all right, and he takes the jar and he sticks it right in his jean pocket. I don't understand why he did that. And like somehow, some way, it just slips like straight through his hands and just onto the floor. Boom. The glass breaks and there's no recovering the mushrooms. And I was just like, all right, well, clean that shit up, Chris. There's your mushroom trip.
Lesson learned.
He cleans it up and I'm just laughing at him. I'm trying, like, I'm not mad because I think it's hilarious. But he
did learn the lesson. He learned a method of cleaning and caring for himself that he didn't have before.
So that was the big thing. And during it, like I was cracking jokes on him, and I was like, "Look, dude, the mushrooms taught you how to clean." They're like, "Look, he taught you how to sweep, mop, and trash." And I was like, "No trip required, bro." You got your mushroom.
That's the synchronicity, though. That's what the universe is trying to tell us.
Yeah, and it told me that it was not time for him to have the psychedelic trip because he was still working on his physical stuff. And so
I also make sure my house is super clean before I trip. It's just a ritual method. You have you get what you give. If you're gonna put a lot of effort into it, you're gonna get something good out.
If you've ever been deep on acid and you see like dirt on the floor, it just looks so much worse. It's so much worse. So that's why I cringed when you said every president should take acid, because I think it was Albert Hoffman, I don't know, one of those like first LSD guys, when they found out, they're like, this is great, I'm gonna give this to everybody. I did that. I went to all my friends, every drug addict that I knew. I was trying to give them DMT. I was trying to guide people on these trips. I was trying to heal, and it helped a lot of people. Some people, they had a rough experience, and
you gotta be ready to face yourself.
I'm finding that if you don't have some type of mystical grounding, some type of spiritual grounding, some type of relationship with God or the all or the universe or whatever, you might be able to trip, you might be able to go out and see some visuals and have fun, but you're not going to get, even if you don't have a horrible experience, you're not going to get, like, oh yeah, that was really fun, I saw some colors. You won't get something out of it.
That's true. When I was younger, I didn't have this physical spiritual practice I do now.
Yep.
Like, I didn't have the ritual in place. I didn't have the desire to be more.
Yeah, your heart wasn't
open. And so I
way.
was definitely just doing it to have visuals or have fun. But I like it a lot more now that I'm in tune with it.
Wow. Actually, you guys, I never really thought about like talking about that. How people have a different experience with these psychedelics when they have a spiritual connection to a higher
Very
power.
wise.
And yeah, I've always been very like spiritual. Like I was born kind of like in like Christianity, and I've been through like Catholic and Seventh-day Adventist and all other types of Lutheran. That was also very interesting. But I realized that like I'm not a Christian. I just like God. like Jesus is my
That's all God wants from you.
yeah. Well, I think
That's it.
that was like the biggest eye opener for me.
Yeah.
When I finished 7-day Adventist school, because all they taught was like revelations. They're like, "Yo, the world is about to get fucked up."
What? What kind of interesting
Yeah.
call is this?
I was like 10, so I was scared as hell that the world was just gonna end. Like, that locusts were gonna come out of the ground and start eating people, and no one was gonna be able to die. And
Sounds
They
like the
might.
Christian
I was
church.
traumatized. Dude. Well, they made us recite it by memory. Like, I was in it. I read the Great Controversy and everything. Like,
Oh
I
my
was-
God. This
Yeah.
is not good.
But the thing is,
Controlling people through fear since day
it
one.
started me.
Stop it, Christian church.
Yeah.
Sorry. But
Yeah, I mean, guys, Christianity can be very dark. And I think that
Any religion that tries to avoid with fear
those
is
scary kids with it, but I mean, it opened my eyes to having a love for theology. That's something that like I find very interesting. Like now,
I
I
also love
I turned that
theology.
like I
yeah,
used to
talk about that
be.
one time.
I guess like I guess the paradox of Christianity opened me up to want to learn more about other other religions because it made me look so intently at everything. Because I was like, at first I was like, okay, I believe everything that the thing is saying. These people have to be good. But then after the people in the schools kind of pushed me away and didn't like my questions and stuff, I was like, well, I must be bad then. And then I went to the military and I killed a bunch of people. And then I was like, well, I'm definitely bad now. And I felt horrible. I was like, I can't be Christian anymore. Like women and children are dead. So now what? And then I realized that like, I mean, I had to face that. I had to face those shadows. But I realized that like God he had something in store for me. He kept telling me that, every time your heart breaks, every time you feel like you're being pushed away, like that's me opening up your heart wider and wider. That's you casting the net deeper and deeper. He's like, there's people that have never experienced war. There are people that have never experienced having the pressures that you've experienced, and you're gonna have a heart for them, where other people
Yes.
that have not experienced it won't understand. And he's like, all the stuff that you've been through when you're a kid, all the stuff that you've gone through when you're a teenager, all the
You have
stuff
to feel it, or you have to feel it to heal it.
yeah, all that, like that's your range, that's your emotional depth. And those are all the people that you can touch with your experiences. And you can lean those like the deeper you go, the more that you can come back from and still have that connection to God. Like that's the deepest, or I guess like that's as far as you can reach. And you'll see it. You'll see people that have gone through similar things and they'll come and reach for you. And then you'll be a support for them. All right.
You're not supposed to have a glowing head.
Oh, my bad, bro.
God, you're taking my statement away from me.
All right, we're back. Sorry, that was a quick little break in the middle of our thing because I don't know reasons.
Now, religion and spirituality is something that my nephew's also very in tune with. So this is another part of the conversation we can have while he's present.
Okay.
Okay, if we can,
Yeah,
without
definitely.
having to waste too much time, your story is my story of the trauma and then the Christianity and then the searching of the whole. You look at Christianity, and if you, I don't want to say it, I'm going to say it. If you really, truly love God and want to know about God, you have to look at the book and say, something doesn't add up. There's some questionable stuff. So what I did is I went to the other books. I went to Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism. And you get to those books, you're like, wow, some of these are a lot more spot on, but there's still some questionable stuff. And I think that's a necessary searching. And eventually you find, I use terms like God or Jah because I was raised in a Christian community, but you find a deeper connection to the all. And I think that's what it's about. So to hear you telling your life story and hearing my life story in it so clearly, it gives me so much faith because you went to war, I went to a drug addiction in prison, a different type of war.
Yeah.
But those are the people that I can help. And these are the people that you can help. And that's amazing to me.
Yeah. It's
Very
so
beautiful.
important. And
I wonder if it's something to do with your north nodes. I'm going to check your charts for real now because now I'm wondering if there's something there I can.
Yeah, it's spooky. It's spooky listening to him talk. I was like, oh God, this is weird.
yeah, man. Well, I mean, that's just how we roll. We just get connected like that sometimes. in a weird way.
Collective perspective, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, the collective perspective.
Personally, I never had a romance with Christianity. I hated Jesus until I took a mythology course. And when I heard that he turned the tables up in the churches and said no money in the church or whatever, I was like, all right, I got this guy's back now. I can handle him. But my own path for spirituality, I forged my own way. I mean, I've studied all religions, but I definitely came to my own spiritual path on my own. But when I started watching DiCara do Hindu mythology, and I'm not going to say the name right, so I'm just going to like not do it because he'll yell at me later for it. But the books, the texts of the Vedic like system, Bhagavad Gita, that's it. It's my belief. When he said all is one, like all of these things, you are an expression, a fractal of infinite oneness, or the one consciousness that wants to experience itself through every fractal of reality. I was like, this is what I believe. How can this be written in a book from fucking 5,000 years ago?
Like, what the?
And I was so moved by that.
Yeah.
It was in you. It was in you already.
And and when it was reflected, or I seen it through another person's mouth, it was very powerful.
It is truth. And when you hear the truth, you recognize it. You say that's it.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And I've got a great new, I mean, I already liked Vedic astrology, but my relationship with Vic at that point, he became more of a guru than just a teacher.
That's beautiful.
He was speaking the truth I was meant to hear.
That's good. Yeah, sometimes it takes a while to find that person. I think that when it comes to that, I think that's actually something that we're growing. Like I really hope for like humanity's sake that we start to learn how to channel like those gurus, those energies, those I guess I would almost call them like collective like intelligences, and like nodes of the creator. Yeah, and channel those through yourself, because I feel like one of the things that we've been tripped up in the Piscean age was kind of like deferring our notion of reality to someone else, and so like the guru aspect,
and our method of worship, our way of having a relationship with the universe.
Yeah, I feel like that's evolving though. I see it a lot.
You don't have to have an in-between man. You can relate, you can relate to it yourself. You don't have to have somebody else telling you how to do it.
Just go talk to God on your own. You don't even need the preacher.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Just close your eyes. They're
there.
And or
open them.
Yeah, or open them, right?
Yeah. I think that once I think that's the thing. Like, I mean, as a child, you're not gonna understand that. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I think as infancy, like when you're young, like pre-7 years old, then that's what you are anyway.
Yeah, you would feel it. Well, okay, so I guess the reason
we're trained out of having faith in the universe. We're trained out of magic. We're trained out of true empowerment. Like that's this culture we're in.
I get it. I get what you're saying, and I hear you. But what I'm trying to say is that like you will know that from a feeling perspective.
Yes.
But through religion, and then evolving, like as taking your own personal development from religion to spirituality to eventually a connection to all, like that's giving your left side of your brain, your physical, your ego mind a connection, a route to get to source. Like, not saying
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing that religious provides for us, because like I said, everyone is different. So like when you have a child, like some people are more connected originally, like out of the gate, they're just like they can maintain that connection. But a lot of people, they depending on their situations and so on, the ego is shaped very quickly throughout those first 7 years. And so the fact that we have a mechanism that reaches so deep as religion into the physicality of our ego minds is actually like it's not supposed to make sense, because you're not looking at it in the right mindset. And when you start looking at it, like you start questioning it, that's exactly what religion is supposed to get you to do. It's supposed to question it. And then once you
have to experience life, to experience the universe.
Yeah, and then once you push it to the side and you realize, hey, there's a difference between religion and my relationship with God, then you discover that's when you've discovered spirituality, because you need empowering. In duality, you need that contrast. You need the difference between the two, like between spirituality. Like to have spirituality, you have to know, because you're in your ego, you have to have something to contrast it with. And I feel like religion is a really good contrast for that, because one leads to the other without destroying the other, even though
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I think spirituality destroys religion.
Well, it does.
But I'm in the gang. I'm on the fucking spiritual gang. I can't mess with religion. I've never Except for when I found out the Vedas were so accurate, but I don't know if I can count that as a religion or just a ancient. I don't know.
I think I really see religion as a stepping stool. Like it's for younger consciousnesses.
You're a Pisces, of course you're gonna be tied into an incredibly well understood like relationship with religion.
It's important.
Yeah.
Religion has to go.
As much as like the rules and all this stuff is like, I mean, it can be very convoluted, and it can lead people in very.
If religion was true, it would be one thing, but it's written by man. The Bible was written by the hands of a man, and so it's going to be tainted by their desires.
Yeah, but that's the big lesson too, though, is that
to become outside of that.
You need to see that this world is flawed. But the book is still a collection of man like grasping at the infinity that is the thing around him. And so, like, the fact that
we're gonna get into a huge argument here because I mean,
I don't think so. I don't think so, and I think you guys are saying the same thing from two different perspectives.
Yeah,
the problem is
I definitely think it's good.
Religion is a blanket term with a lot of connotations, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What you're defending is not religion. Religion is a system. You're defending the stories, the archetypal stories of each religion. Is what I hear.
Thank you, Saban.
What you're attacking,
I was attacking. My bad.
Is the system. You're attacking the religious system. I side very strongly with Sarah on this. If I'm supposed to do anything while I'm on this planet, it is to see the downfall of the Christian church. This is what my purpose here is for. And it's not because I'm against the Christian
because they're against Christ.
It's because they are against Christ. They blaspheme the name of my God. They make my people believe in a hell and believe in sin and punish themselves.
Instead of knowing that they are God.
And then knowing that they are loved and that they are able to love others. So I don't think we can move forward in a religious context, at least in America, at least in Babylon. I don't think we can move forward in religion without the aspect of control and fear that religion already instills. I think we need to tell people the stories of this great man named Christ. And I think we need to encourage them to live in those ways and to read the Bible as a book of stories. I think we need to step away from religion and focus on finding God.
I do see your point, though, when you're saying it's a contrast method to be able to find your way to spirituality. I just got mad because I hate religion, and I'm sorry.
No, it's totally cool. I love your passion, by the way, and I do agree with you. Actually, I really do. I think that, but what I was trying to speak to is that religion in the past, like in up to this day, has been a tool to develop exactly this conversation we're having, because people before were not spiritually even equipped. Because
people were, and then the Christian fucking religion came through and destroyed them, erased their fucking stories, and put them on pikes.
It had to happen.
Those were my people.
I know.
My bad again. My bad. I'm sorry.
Not okay. I agree. I know, but humanity had to go through that. We had to go through that.
True. And I mean, it was meant to be for whatever reason. Nothing happens.
It held us together during those barbaric times where we didn't realize, like, we could not find common ground amongst each other with religion, because there's something in having something physical that you can be like, this is where my beliefs are coming from right now. And I'm not saying this is the permanent place, and this is
after the purge of all the religions. Then yes, that did give people a thing to center in on. But during the time of the purge was not pretty.
No, it wasn't. It was terrible. But the thing is, like, I mean, man was going through the Iron Age, and so we had to go through those tough times, because what we were
fine. We're gonna take them out the same way they took us out.
Are we?
I'm going right to the fucking Vatican with a fucking just my fists and my mouth, and I'm gonna kill them with words and with not violence.
But there's no reason to even kill them. Like, I mean,
there is.
No,
they've got part of one of my bodies there. I know it. They've got my phylactery in the Vatican. I'm sorry. I just can't concede. I'm nuts. I'm gonna quiet down.
I guess the way to put it is that, like, the retribution is not for me to hold in my heart. Like,
it is for me.
When it comes to revenge, like, that's the sword of the Lords. Like, when it comes to, like,
I shall be the wielder of that sword.
Because it cuts both ways, bro. I don't wield.
That's all right. I'm not afraid to get cut.
Good. My job is to forgive.
I will give love, and that will be my weapon against the church. I will give truth. That will be my weapon against the church.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's your path. That's your path.
I didn't mean to get crazy again.
And that's where your heart is at. Like,
maybe we should change the subject.
I think this is a beautiful conversation.
It's great. I hear that he's speaking out of the Christ. The Christ will always forgive and love. You're speaking out of the Bhagavad Gita, which says you're put here to do a job and do your job. Don't worry about it, man. This is the Hindu versus Christian philosophy perfectly.
Goal. Yes, yeah, I think truly, like, the thing is, the seeds of destruction, like, evil always carries the seeds of its own destruction within it. And so, like, our job is not to pull the seed out, is to let it play itself out.
Let it grow on its own.
We are not to get our hands dirty and to become the monster that they have pushed onto us. Like, they are trying to warp us. They're the ones
I made
perception.
From the movie Dreamcatcher. I am that dog. I am that monster. Such a good movie, dude.
I'm gonna watch it though. I heard good things about it. I'm gonna put down
so good.
I would say I sincerely hope that everybody, if anybody watches this, the people that watch this will follow Dupe. He is 100% right. Peace, love, those are the only ways that we accomplish anything. Anything outside of that is outside of the will of God. That being said, some of us are here for other reasons.
Yeah, I'm here to push the envelope.
Some of us are. It's a sad fact, but some of us are going to have jobs that look like they go very, very much so against what God wants. And that's it. It is outside of God's will to harm, but it's going to have to play out in certain ways over this next period. And I'm not going to be a part of that, but I have my own ways against the church.
And I think that, like I said, I don't like the church either. Like, I think it's the nastiest thing ever. That's why I say I'm not a Christian. I just like God. I roll with Jesus.
And I'm with Jesus too now. Like, I'm okay with Jesus. Me and him are down. We're friends.
I just see Jesus as like the most metal guy ever. Like, he's just like, yeah, whips and chains or whatever. Like, you know, this guy is he's metal as hell. Like,
I see Jesus as flipping tables and like walking into churches and just being like telling everybody they're wrong. Yeah, I love it.
Everyone's like, who
with a message of love. See, Jesus was on my tip. Jesus was on the let's go mess this shit up. He was just like me.
He was very aggressive.
But the thing that makes me like respect him so much is that, like, he didn't have to raise his hand. He was just like, I'm gonna beat you up with my words. Like, I'm gonna beat you up with your own
I'm not gonna
ignorance.
Cut them.
He does that. He makes them look so dumb.
With their own book.
Truth and love.
With their own book. That's why I studied this book. You gotta study it.
Yeah, it's great. Well, the thing is, like, I believe that a lot of these forces of darkness, they, like I said, they can't I guess they can't divulge, like, they can't go off of prophecy. Like, they are stuck. They're bound to the stories. That's why the stories are so important.
Yes,
we are the ones who are the heroes of those stories. We are the ones whose destiny, our will, our walking of the path, like, that is the page is turning. But these spirits that we see that are of the darkness, that are controlling things on our outside, in our I guess you would say our environment, our environment. Like, those things, that is the setting, like, of your story. You're in it. And so, like, you don't know that you're a hero. You don't know that you're here to go and, well, I mean, I guess maybe you do know you're gonna fucking tear down that church. But but what I'm trying to say is, like, it's
most people fulfill their roles without being aware of it because they're just doing their thing.
You're gonna do it. You're gonna do exactly what you got to do, and you're gonna I think that I mean, so you just gotta, but that passion in your heart will never be quelled until you do it the way you have to do it. Like, you know, no amount of me saying, Sarah, put the sword down, will ever be like, okay. Like,
but you have to say, Sarah, put the sword down.
I mean, you guys know me, though. I mean, like, anybody who knows me knows that if I try to manipulate someone, I'm going to manipulate them with truth and love. Yeah. If I'm going to destroy someone, I'm going to use goodness and whatever. Truth is my main sword. And so I can't put the sword of truth down. But I'm not going to raise my hand. I'm going to literally like preach on my soapbox against their lies, and I believe that will be their downfall.
Yeah, I believe.
But I'm going to preach on that soapbox. I'm not going to just let things move smoothly. I have to get my words to the people because I am very passionate.
I think that's a lot of our duty. We have to speak up with what we know. We don't have to speak against the church so much, but we have to speak up. There's a truth that God speaks to our hearts, and it's our job to share that.
And God comes in every form. One of those is the destroyer, Shiva, whatever, right? So we all have to be an aspect that is needed.
Just play your role.
Yeah,
do what you will and love God.
And I firmly believe that in the power of the voice. So just by, like, that's another real big reason I really wanted to have this podcast with you, is because I believe that the power of us holding a conversation and holding different aspects of God within our hearts, and then having this conversation shapes a lot of things. It shapes a lot of other stories that we're not going to see until we see the waves later in the ocean.
Yeah,
but I feel like it's very important to have these conversations. Yeah, I think
if those waves knock somebody's little canoe up onto a shore and saves their life, then so be it.
I mean, someone could be listening to this and they could be going through the Catholic Church and feeling, oh, what's that?
That's how I'm going to take down the church. Page of air, message of truth. The end is
you literally are on a soapbox. Okay? It's already written in the cards. It's gotta happen.
Yeah, the card. And I love how you're wearing a pressure shirt like that. There it is. Like
we'll apply the pressure.
Yeah. My shirt says "Find what you love and let it kill you." So.
And this is what saved him. This is his path too.
Yeah.
See, so we all have a role.
We all have a role. And that's what the Bhagavad Gita teaches. Don't judge your role. Just accept it. If this is what's on your heart, do what God's instructed you to do.
Man, religion's a weird thing.
I know you have some things to attend to later. Did you want to stop now?
I think everything is okay. You good, babe?
I'm good.
You good? All right. She's good. I'm good. The maintenance guy's not here yet, so I'm good.
So then I want to jump into back to psychedelics, DMT entities, because I don't know what they are. I don't experience DMT entities when I've done DMT, if I had done it. So I don't know what they are. And Dave, I know you've had a lot of talks about this, so let's talk about some DMT entities.
Have you done DMT, Dupe?
Nope.
Okay. I don't know. I hear stories about usually people on YouTube telling about how much they did so much DMT and they broke through and they had these entities. Now, I'm not discounting anybody's experience. You'll see what you need to see on psychedelics. I don't have any experience with any physical entities that show me around. I've not done DMT a million times, but I have a fair amount of experience and no idea about the entities.
Okay, so that's at least conclusive to say that out of the world, 2 people have not seen DMT entities.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting thought. A lot of people think that they're other dimensional beings that literally come in and talk to you. I don't know if that's true or if they're part of your mind or if being part of your mind does make them a dimensional entity, but I guess we don't have enough cannon fodder for this conversation to go far.
Yeah, I wish I had some experience to put back into it, but I can't speak to it because I haven't experienced it. But I do know that under a large dose of mushrooms, I did see spirits. I took a nap. I went to go take a nap, and I
always take a nap on psychedelics.
Well, I had to go to bed, so it was
my favorite thing.
It was too much. It was time to go to bed. I was up for too long. I need to go to bed. And but I'll tell you what I saw. And I remember at one point, I remember closing my eyes and I saw a few different entities and they were all surrounding this box. It looked like it was like a big cube. I've drawn it a few times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Big old cube. And there was a bunch of entities and they usually had one eye or a few eyes. And they were focused in on this cube. And in the cube, the stuff would move around. And that is what was going on. And I remember I was outside of that cube and I was looking there and I was talking to Magnus, which is my spirit guide. And because I see all types of things. If I close my eyes, I could go there.
But you experience spiritual entities outside of psychedelics.
Have I?
Yeah, you do. I think you do.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, that's why but this was my first time though. This was my first introduction to that space. So I never really did it like that before. With my eyes closed. So
then you didn't have spiritual contact with entities before this.
I would say that.
What about Jack?
That's it's different.
It's a spiritual entity.
It was the psychedelic. It was the psychedelic nature of it that was new, not necessarily the spiritual contact that was new. I'd never had it in the spiritual sense like that. And plus, I wasn't good at meditating up until that trip was when I had already been meditating a few more. I had more of a framework of mind. And so when I was in that mushroom mode, I remember we had our AC unit on, and so it was making a noise, and my mind was syncing up to the frequency of the air. The
vibration is serious.
Yeah. And I remember I'd see these large masses of things, and it was just moving parts. It was a whole configuration of moving things. It kind of reminded me of I remember seeing trains. There was some type of thing with trains, and it was just a big, like dingy moving train thing. And like at first I was really scared of it because it felt like
outside of yourself.
Yeah, well, it felt very alien, scary, and because I was still very Christian at that point, like in the sense that I was studying a lot of like Christian stuff, and so I was just like, is this a psychedelic demon? And but I realized that actually it was me confronting the ego construct of my mind. Like that's what like my ego looked like on the inside.
So then it was an internal mechanism. The actual entity was you.
Yeah, it was because it's mushrooms. Like mushrooms is always internal for me. So I knew that if I closed my eyes and saw that thing, it was in me. And after I embraced its like absurdity, I guess, because it was absurd. Like I think that's the best way to describe it. It just was
sort of biblical angels.
it was appalling, like but in not in a like a scary way. It was just like a a lot kind of way. But I remember hearing in my head to keep calm, because like when I sped up, like when I started to panic, I remember seeing like the little trains and stuff, like they started moving faster, and I was like, no, don't move faster.
Have you ever experienced outside of DMT a spiritual entity when you were tripping?
No, for me, psychedelics usually affirm the one and not the many.
Yeah, fair.
Usually, my psychedelic experience brings me into the all, not into separation.
I'm very controlled about my psychedelic experiences because of the abductions. So I am very consciously not letting things come into my peripheral or my spiritual space when I'm on psychedelics, because you are less controlled in that space. So I'm very much not letting anything in at that time. But in my dreams, I can feel like this is a thing. Okay. So we're concluding that in psychedelic space, we feel like we're interacting with ourselves in different forms or whatever. But in my dreams, I can tell that there's an entity that's not me, and I'm interacting with it. Like seriously, like my sister Sean will come into my dream space, and it's not like having a dream about her. It's about, I can tell when she's there and when she's not there. Yeah. And it happens with creepy critters and all sorts of stuff. So I'm wondering if psychedelics do just focus on going to the one, and then we have experiences with spiritual entities when we're not on psychedelics, but people might just think that they're experiencing external parts of the universe because they're not aware of that part of themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that in this reality, separation is the thing. So if you're dreaming in this reality, you are allowed to feel separation. I'd be like, psychedelics remove the veil of the illusion of separation and then just bring you into the all.
So machine elves from DMT trips could very well be not dimensional entities, but aspects of our psyche that we're not integrated.
Could very well be.
I mean, even just like if you look into like panpsychism, they talk about like making your own system, like God system, based on like the things that you believe. So those can be archetypical, like you could be facing archetypical energies that have taken on a psychedelic appearance because of your state of mind. And then like in almost a Jungian sense, like that is you holding a space with that thing. So like I knew when I was facing that like weird train man
thing
that I was encountering an archetype of it was like, to me, like I saw like a legion, like it was a lot, like it was a many, it was a lot of things, but it was also like very, it felt like my ego, like I don't know how else to put it besides it was just like a machine version of me, but also a lot. But I felt okay, like but because I had that mindset of like I know that there are parts of me that need to be integrated. Like I went in that mindset that I knew that this is what what I needed to do. I was able to confront it, look at it, feel it, and I feel like I was actually able to integrate it a lot more because I was able to embrace it. There you go. That's a good way, because not all the time you can integrate everything in one go. But I definitely felt like I was able to embrace it, where normally it would have been a lot more muchness for me to handle. Yeah.
Interesting conclusions. I now want to talk to people who've done DMT religiously in order to determine whether or not they could say it's a part of themselves. Because I mean, these entities supposedly teach us things. Like they teach you parts about yourself you have to face. This is just from what I've learned from watching podcasts and stuff. Joe Rogan specifically. Like they come in, they teach you a lesson about yourself, break down your ego. So maybe it is just them. But then if you look at it that way, then we have to accept that we are all one, in which case is it a separate version of them? I don't know. Interesting though. It's really interesting.
I definitely feel like there are different levels of our reality based off of frequency, and when your brain is at different frequencies, it interprets all of those, because everything that we're perceiving is a frequency. So I feel like it's perceiving all the things a little differently, and connecting in different ways. Now, whether the thing is outside of me or inside of me, actually doesn't matter, because no matter what, I'm perceiving it from inside of me, because we're always perceiving from the inside of you. And so we're just more conscious of that when we're in that space. But those things could still have intentions, that you still need to make sure you know how to protect yourself from.
Right.
And that's why psychic self-defense is really important. Writing down intentions is really important.
Psychic self-defense is the name of one of the first books I ever read about magic.
Oh yeah, that's good.
It
That's
was
like
a
the
purple
first
book.
that's awesome. Yeah. Good job. I read like a Wiccan book.
Yeah.
Did I tell you the story of how like I got introduced to like basic magic stuff? All right, so I was like deep Christian at this point. I had just gotten out of like private schools, and I just started high school. And I think it was like my second year of high school, and it was summer. I was really depressed. My mom and dad were fighting really bad, and I was on the edge of wanting to take my life. Like I was really, really feeling it.
I think all teenagers feel that way, for the record.
Yeah, that's not.
So just struggle through it, guys. You'll survive. Just don't do it.
It's hard. You know, I mean, you're being flooded with a lot of
But
hormones.
your body is going crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and on top of that, you're still learning a ton, and the world didn't make any sense. So I get it. Like
Everything
I
is
get it
so
for myself.
severe when you're a teenager.
Yeah, I mean, you're borderline insane at that point. But so yeah, I was really feeling bad, and I remember I was at home by myself. Like I just felt so isolated. And I remember I was at a park. Like I walked to the park, and I literally called the suicide hotline. Like I was like, I just want to talk. Like I need to connect to someone. And I called, and no one answered. It just kept ringing. I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna go die then. And like I'm being dramatic, but
Yeah.
also I was very serious because I'm a teenager. And so I hang up the phone, and like I remember I was on a slide, and I was looking up, and I saw the stars, and I made a wish, and I was like, listen, I was like, if you don't want me to kill myself, give me a sign. Like I need something like right now, because I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna do it. And I started walking back home from the park, and right before I got home to my house, I saw a book on the floor, big ass textbook it looked like, and it was blue. I think it was like blue.
Bucklands fucking Guide to Witchcraft.
Yes.
I had the same book.
What?
My dad gave it to me.
Yeah.
Bucklands. It's Buckland's Guide to Witchcraft. Big ass blue book, like this big.
Yes.
That's amazing,
Oh,
dude.
it's making me cry just thinking about it.
That's amazing.
It was on the floor.
It was a good book.
In front of a dumpster.
I read it front to
It's in
back at
perfect
least 3
condition.
times.
And somebody was writing notes in there. Like somebody was taking notes. And
Fantastic.
it taught me how to do tarot. It taught me like all this stuff.
There's a nice section on sex magic.
Yeah, it did. It had all that stuff in there, and I was blown. I was very interested. But like the thing is that was the point when I was like, did I just get this book because I was supposed to, or is this evil?
No,
And I
that was your
realized,
sign.
but I asked for the sign. Exactly. I told myself, I was like, I asked for a sign, and God would give me a sign, and He wouldn't give me this if it wasn't good. And that's why I was okay with like studying this stuff. Like that was like, for me, it was my permission slip to see this, because I was very focused on being a good person.
Because of religion.
Bad person. Because of religion, yeah.
Wicca is so about being a good person, though.
Like I was very obsessed about it. I was very perfectionist.
That's amazing. Good story. Good book. Very good book. It's so old, no one will ever find a copy of it now, but it's definitely something I would recommend.
I remember, like, I shared it with my.
Goodbye, babe.
Bye-bye, guys.
Gross. Love you guys.
I remember sharing that book with my friends in high school that were also going through a hard time. And I remember she asked me if she could borrow it. And there was something in my mind that told me, it's like, if you let this book go, you won't see it again.
It was meant to move.
But I gave it to her anyway, because I'm just that kind of guy. That was one of my biggest things.
Pisces.
I'm so bad about giving away all of my toys.
These are the martyr. That's who you are.
But I'm learning not to do that. I'm like, Jarrell, you better not give away anything else. You're done giving toys away for you. I told myself about the mushrooms and Chris. I was like, those mushrooms were for you, Jarrell. If they were meant for Chris, he would have got them. They're for you. And I'm like, okay, fine. So yes, I'm taking that. That's my Piscean lesson I'm working on. Don't give away everything, guys. Okay, some things are just for you.
You can't give somebody a drink if your cup is empty.
That's very true. And I'm famous for trying to drink out of an empty cup. So don't do it. Don't do it. It'll save yourself so much heartache. And I mean, there's also like a lesson that I learned about anger. I can't remember what's the fancy saying. It's like anger is the reaction to other people's stupidity.
I don't know. I've never heard that, but I like it.
So I mean, honestly, don't give them the power. And it's okay that they're stupid because I mean, you're not, so that's fine. I mean, that's the mindset you can have. And
I would
don't
give
be
up a
activating.
finger if people would have common sense, though. For real.
Huh?
I would give up a finger at least on both hands if I could make people have common sense.
That would be nice. Common sense would be nice for everyone to have. I wish we did have some of those going on because I
So
mean,
if I may indulge myself, I have to believe that your path to discovering magic had to do with me.
Yeah, what I know about magic from you for sure.
Tell me all about it.
Aunt, so, well, it was always present in my life, and so he grew up with me. I hope that it was present in his young life.
Yeah.
He was like 6 when he moved to Florida, but up until he was 6, we were rocking out together.
That's awesome. What part of magic interests you the most? Like what drew you into like as a
The study of consciousness. It's just study of the all. I think religion probably is what did it for you.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I don't have any now if we were to sit here and break down terms, I would agree with you on everything you say about magic. I use a different vocabulary. I have a different knowledge system on
Miracles.
it. Miracles is what I would speak. I speak miracles.
Okay.
That being said, if we remove all terms, I think the magician, the shaman, whatever you want to call it, seeks to act upon their environment, while the mystic seeks to just stand in awe of the mystery and maybe try to explain it in their whatever brief limited way they can.
Or it's just experience the mystery.
Exactly, to just experience. So that being said, I don't have a whole lot of use of magic. I come to Sarah when like I need readings or I need to know something because she is my storehouse of information. But you are the one that I use to affect this reality.
Okay, cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like I can't do it on my own. I'm just standing here like you know.
But it doesn't hurt to have a friend.
Absolutely, we all have a role to play.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever want to learn, hit me up.
Everyone tells me. I'm like, I know I could. I know.
Okay, this is the thing about every human being, every plant, everything around us. We are all consciously using magic without knowing it.
Yes,
exactly. It's just when you decide that you want to use it, you set the intention, and intention is the universe. That's how magic works. But we're all doing it every day. I watched him do magic like 65 times since he's been here.
So that's what I'm saying. If we broke down the terms,
terminology, if we break it down.
Yeah, if we were to break down the terms, I'm going to agree with every single thing you say. So that's why I say I fully support magic. I fully support the use of magic. I'm all for magic for the masses. It's just not my vocabulary to say it like that.
I think that Jesus was a cleric. D&D style, like taking his.
I could see that.
Yeah, but yeah, right.
I could totally.
I believe he was one of the chosen clerics of the all. So very good.
Yeah, I agree. I agree too. I think his archetype was probably that of definitely the magician and the fool at the same time because he had to play both. Because I feel like the fool will allow you to see and like gain experience off of him, and then the magician will also lead you in that direction.
I kind of feel like he would be the star.
Yeah, okay, sure. Why would you say that?
Well, it's hope for one.
Oh,
period.
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
Then the star is the Aquarius card. It's the water bearer. It's you're giving the nutrition of the universe to the human race. So pouring in what is good, what is necessary. But
your metaphor is really good. I like that. That was pretty spot on, man.
I love tarot.
But see, that's another thing. Like my Jesus, the way I see Jesus is different than the way you see Jesus, and I think that's awesome. Like, and I think that's like actually the big message of like finding your own personal like connection to source in general is to sit there and figure out like what archetype does this spirit hold for me, and how does that, like calling upon that archetype, how does that affect me in my life? My cat is being so cute, but
That term you use though, my Jesus, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's about your God, my Jesus, my God, my Buddha, whatever you want to call it. But when you make it personal like that, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's called panpsychism, and it's very
integrating the God.
Yeah, you integrate it, and I mean I wound up like building a whole pantheon for myself because I needed to. I needed to understand.
You have a quite a pantheon, and it lines up with his chakra system, and it's amazing.
So
yeah, and that just came like naturally through like figuring out all this stuff. Like I was trying
do an episode on chakras someday
to like distill all of the esoteric knowledge I was learning into a system for myself, like so that I could remember it and be functional. And so like I even have a necklace system where like different necklaces hold different spirits that link to different chakras to help me do different parts to access different qualities of my personality.
I can't wait for the chakra episode actually now.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. Oh man, I can't
next
wait
week.
to put chakras together. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. But yeah, I read a book on it first, and almost on accident. I wish I had that book. I would have to find it. But
when I was young, there was no source material on chakras. Like you couldn't find anything anywhere.
Yeah.
Until very recently, like the last 5 years. Cool.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I was referencing panpsychism when I was saying that I read a book on it.
Right.
The chakras, I learned that from the internet.
I had to like really dig. Like for years I was trying to learn about these things, and you couldn't find anything about them. But then finally, in the last 5 years, it broke in the pop culture. So now I can. It's really cool.
Yeah, I feel like anime helped with that a lot.
Perhaps. Oh, freaking The Last Airbender or whatever. That's still to this day my favorite explanation of the chakra system and how to cleanse it or whatever. It's beautiful. I'll try to edit that into this video if I can.
Oh, that'd be dope. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think what are your beliefs on the chakra system and like how it affects your body and such? And what's your relationship with it?
I gotta pause.
Okay. I'll pause the video?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, chakra system, how do you feel?
Chakra system, how I feel. Subtle reminders. My answer for this will be my answer for a lot of things. And I don't mean this is my own limited point of view. I think the chakra system is important. It's just as important as any other system that you choose to put your belief into. I believe that crystals are important if crystals are the method that you've been given to heal. I believe that chakra, focusing on aligning your chakras is important if that's what the universe presents to you. I spent 4 months of my time in incarceration, and that work was the only spiritual work I did outside of prayer and reading the Bible. So it was hugely important to me. But when I say that it's milk, that's the old Christian term, milk and meat, in my own personal belief system, aligning the things of this body, even things of spirit with this body in this physical realm is not the first step. That's probably step 8 somewhere, you know. It's very important. Just like taking mushrooms to get a broader perspective or to learn lessons is very important. I feel like all that stuff is groundwork. Some of it might be framework, but it's not the ultimate. It's a means to an end. And I feel like in our culture of spirituality and Instagram, people get stuck on the chakras, stuck on the crystals, stuck on meditating, and then they never go further. It's almost like spirituality in itself has become its own religion, and people are okay with this base. I do yoga, I meditate, I got my crystals, but they never are connecting with the all, or they've stopped connecting with the all because they've got an idol.
I have to stop you. You never opened up your crown chakra, did you? Because the crown chakra is the connection to the all. The end goal of chakra work is oneness with the universe.
So that's when I stopped doing the chakra work. I worked through all 7 chakras.
You were already there.
I just worked through it. I did my thing. I saw more physical healing come from chakra work than anything else.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw in some history here, okay? Historically, and I speak from this only with a couple sources, not a ton of sources, but I'm pretty confident in my analogy or my truth of it. Chakra work was never something like you don't always have your chakras going. They're not always spinning and whatever. It was a practice that you did to clear energy. So you didn't always, it's not like your chakras are these glowing balls of energy inside of you. It's when you need to do work, you activate the chakra network in order to clear the flow of chi or whatever, so that it can go back through your whole body, which would be making sense for the physical healing. Another important thing that's not important that we could just ignore, people picture your chakras going like this. Historically, they were like this, like a dinner plate, which is interesting. I like to picture them as a sphere in order to alleviate that issue, but that was what I had thrown historically.
I'll add this on real quick. with, and I don't want to say limited importance, but with the chakra system and with that being where it is in my life, which doesn't take up much of my thought at all, I'm learning how to try to sing. I'm trying to get my voice of what I know about God out to people. I've started wearing more blue. I'm trying to open up my throat chakra. There's a conscious awareness of these things, but I don't. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Blue is the throat chakra?
I think you're right.
There's a conscious awareness of these things, but I don't.
You need to wear yellow.
For what?
Solar plexus.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But I don't sit there and spend a ton of time on it. I'm aware of the things that I need to do, and it's just another tool that I use. Just like I meditate, just like I pray. It's another tool that I use, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well said. For me, how it works in my life, I guess, because I have it integrated into
your spiritual system.
My spiritual system. I usually just like pick a node for the day, in which I'm gonna be kind of relatively in, and that's usually where I pick a necklace, and then when I'm about to do something that requires my chakras, that's when I activate them. So yeah, like I never really thought about like them not really like being super like activated all the time, because I never really I don't have time to do that shit all the time.
Historical doesn't mean current either, because everything evolves, practices evolve.
Yeah, so like for mine, like when I need to call upon like certain chakras, I have a color base too. So like colors are way easier for me, and I think it might be easier for a lot of people that don't have a lot of like visualization, because you can visualize maybe a color easier. But I just imagine like red, like if I'm in the gym and I need my strength to go, I'll picture red, and if I feel like that's not enough, or like my mind's not in that mindset of like survivalness, like I might use,
I think orange would be more of your adrenals, but I've just,
and I can use those energies to kind of push me forward. And then when I'm doing like my meditation and I'm trying to like clear anything or like do shadow work, like that's when I activate my heart. So I put my hand on my heart and I'll ask for it to open up, and then something sad will happen in my head and I gotta cry about that. And then that's usually how you know it works.
Right.
When I open up my third eye, like I imagine like a big burst of like purple, like swirling, flashing energy, like shooting out in all directions. And then when I'm trying to do soul work, so like third eye work and soul work are different for me. Like when I'm doing third eye stuff, I'm doing recall. I have like a lot of meditation techniques that work with like chaining your memories together, like working with all the things that your memories are connected to.
Yeah, push them away.
And when I want to access those chains of memories, I noticed that the third eye is where I call upon. But when I'm trying to connect with all, like you were saying, Sarah, is I hit the crown chakra and my twin soul, or my soul star chakra above my head, and then below my feet, and I can feel it feels like almost like an electric like dome all the way around me at that point. And I'm opening up, like I see myself almost like the circuit system. And so like when I'm activating, like after I've cleared all my chakras and I'm ready, or I've just like calmed down enough and I know that I'm about to do spirit work, I'll open up my soul star chakra. It's like right above your head, and then at the same time you're activating the one right below your feet. So it's like wherever your feet is, like a couple inches below that, and you can feel like I can start feeling like a tangible, like after you practice long enough, you can feel like the energy on both sides. And when I feel it, like I know that I'm in a protective veil, and then from there I can do my soul work on the soul star chakra.
I just go super saiyan.
I bet that's a good way to do it. When I was doing the Monroe Institute, I have to get back on it. I've been taking a little bit of a break because all this vacation stuff. But when I was doing the Monroe Institute stuff, when I switched from Focus 10 to Focus 12, that's how I used to imagine it. Yeah, Super Saiyan, just whoosh, like
spiritual defense mechanism.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Like
one interesting thing I like to know about the crown chakra is that most people, I guess, like historically would picture it as white or like a pure purple or something, but I picture mine black. My sister Boo and Tyron picture theirs as gold glitter. So it's however you connect to the all.
Yeah. I see it as like a ton of different colors. It's just really fast. It's like it's a bunch of flashing like strobes, and that's usually why I know it's time to go.
I have an excellent video on my channel. I will maybe link it in the podcast description about chakras and opening your chakras. So check it out, guys.
How do you think chakras relate to chi?
Well,
they're the networks.
I believe that the chi flows within the chakra is the system, and the chi is the thing inside of it, like the blood. I believe that our chi. I mean, I've seen it get stuck in places. I do. I've been learning like massage, and I've
I want
noticed.
to learn whatever that
Yeah,
is.
yeah. There's certain spots that like will initiate a response. And
Acupuncture, that's what I want.
it's a clearing, like it's an energetic chi block that you're like letting out, and the person, I mean, will let you know, like it feels good.
Right.
I think that's how they relate to me, at least.
Do you find that those spots are pressure points for massage?
Yeah, I mean, usually they're pretty sensitive.
So do you think, I don't know time frames off the top of my head, 3,000 years ago, let's just say that's accurate for the sake of making me look smart.
Okay.
If you had somebody like a Tai Chi master or somebody doing Qigong or something like that, and they were actively moving the Qi around their body, do you think even though they had no knowledge of the chakra system, do you think they were in effect still maybe aligning or clearing their chakras if they were tuned into where their Qi was stuck?
I think so.
Oh yeah,
Without having that framework or that vocabulary, they were still essentially
Reiki. Reiki is some sort of new thing that people say is energy manipulation, but I've been calling it energy manipulation for 35 years, like 30 years. I guess it wasn't that in tune when I was a kid, but these are just terms that we put on the same methods, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah, I noticed there's a lot of vocabulary overlap on techniques. I think techniques are something that go both ways. Like it can be in the collective, like it's a collective technique, like it's almost like a martial art. Like it's been something that many people have been honing. A description, and that's why it almost lumps into me with
movement that
religion,
just
that
displayed.
sense of a structured way to connect with the all that the ego mind can actually understand and grab onto, like because it needs a system, it needs boxes. The ego needs that to make sense of things. So I believe that, like, even 3,000 years ago, I believe that they had their own reason, like they had their own story in which they told their mind that why those things worked. And I think that's the thing that's so important to develop, is that you have to develop a reason why. Like, why does this work? And even if it's not set in stone why it works, it needs to make sense for you. And the thing
Magic is belief.
Exactly.
And that brings you back to my statement that the chakra system, if you believe in that system, it will work for you. I don't care what your system is, but you got to pick a system and you got to put belief into it.
Belief is the strongest thing.
Because that's how the ego moves through this world. It has to have these boxes to operate in. It's a constructed world. It needs constructs.
And more boxes, and not always better. Because
no, you're not boxed in.
Yeah, there's well, some people, people that are able to operate in multiple modes of spirituality because they understand the different frameworks because of theology. I think that's good, but I feel like it does spread your belief out a little bit. So like people that focus like, I only worry about Biblemancy or bibliomancy. You know what I mean? Like me and this book, we're good. Like I believe there are people out there that like will do crazy things with that technique because that is what they focus all their things on. For me, I feel like I don't use anyone's technique. I take whatever they have and I make my own thing out of it. And whatever I can
That's the most powerful form of magic.
That's what you're supposed to do,
yeah. Well, but I think some people who have
really believe in their form that they're learning.
Yeah, they need the backing of a collective thing. And so that's why like the chakra systems are important. That's why religion is important. That's why it's for the beginners. It's
and I wasn't trying to say rude, but that's why I said it's milk. It's something that you need when you're yeah.
Well said, for sure. All right. So we have like 9 more minutes. Okay. Or we could wrap it up. You have anything important?
I will add one crazy thing that we're talking about, kind of. Yoga. Okay. I'm glad we figured this word out yesterday. Yoga is supposed to geometrically align you with spiritual, universal energy flows, and that's why it's supposed to work, which is just exciting and fun to learn. I like all sorts of Jeopardy facts, and that's one of them.
Do you do yoga?
I want to do yoga. I want to start doing yoga.
I do yoga.
A friend of mine, the artist who did this and also made the music for it, he recommended yoga to me, and he said it really helped him align and connect with his emotional body, and that's something I have trouble with, so I'm trying to work on it.
Oh.
All right. And say when you said you did yoga?
I do yoga. I do kind of like yoga, but it's kind of mixed with Tai Chi. I move my body depending on what hurts, where I feel like something's blocked. I'll do a lot of basic yoga poses because they feel great. But then if something needs to, if I need to flow, I try to move my body and just, I don't know how to explain it really. Here we go. There's not a system to explain what I do, but I do something.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah. I don't know how to say it, but I do it.
I wouldn't classify what I do as yoga, but I definitely get myself into like a shamanic state. Like if I'm about to do like some magic, or like I'm about to set a powerful intention, or I just need to move. Like sometimes I just be sitting here too long. I turn on like certain musics, maybe like shamanic drumming. I was listening to Gregorian chants earlier today. I love that shit. Like, but yeah, I get into the zone, and then like I do shakes. Like I shake my whole body, and I shake my head, and like that's how I know. Like when I was a kid, like when the energy would go through my body, like my body would like kind of tense, and I would shake, and I realized like later in life that I can actually like do that naturally. Like I can like squeeze a part of myself like on the inside, and it sends energy throughout my body. I realized that when I dance or like when I'm shaking like that, I can like work myself up into like an altered state of mind. And on top of moving your body, and that's just so important because our physical body is like such an animal thing. Like it needs that stimulation.
Plus, moving your body moves your spirit, vibration.
Yeah, and I mean, even dancing is another thing where you're bringing your body in tune, like in synchronicity with your mind, because if you're doing it correctly, at least, you know.
I don't do it correctly.
Oh, actually I've been working on a new technique to synchronize the left and right hemispheres, and it has to do with like hands, but I don't have all the notes here yet, but I'm gonna talk about that.
Naruto.
Yeah, it's a little bit about hand signs, but it's less about hand signs and more about like talking to each one of your hands as different sides of your brain, and then asking them to come in alignment through dancing with your fingers. And eventually your coordination will like, it will be, you know, it'll be in synchronicity because you asked it to. I feel it in my brain.
Brilliant.
I feel it work while you just told that to me.
Awesome. All right. So
yeah, seriously, when you said that, I was like, yep, for sure.
Because I mean, that's what our hands do. I mean, there are direct connections to those hemispheres. So if you ask them to go in alignment, that's why I believe that the prayer stance, like this right here, is so powerful, because the place where your hands are touching is that like pineal connection. Like that's where that middle zone, the place you want to be. And so yeah, like I always like to start here. Like boom, the hand prayer thing is more than just like a Christian thing. It's more than just a prayer thing. Like it really does.
I just learned what this was started from, but I can't remember now.
Oh yeah, I want to know too.
I'll try to look it back up, but I don't remember this time.
Yeah,
I have one last thought. So we're discussing how belief it pretty much fuels magic. Belief is what creates our universe. But on that note, I just want to leave everybody with the thought that don't believe anything too strongly. You can believe it strongly, but always leave room for new beliefs to come in. Because if you cut yourself off from the ability to take in new beliefs, you literally limit your ability to affect the universe.
Yes.
So while I want you to believe strongly and truly, also be willing to take in more information, more everything all the time.
I'll have to add on that too, because Dupe, you said you went through like a hard Christian phase. I was a super Christian, like Paul, like fighting Muslims in prison and everything. I held that belief too tightly, but I was able to have that belief broken, and that's what expanded me.
And then you can really...
Then you can. At one point, I believed in Christ. Today, I know God. It's a very. I know my mom. I don't believe in my mom. I know my mom. So hold your beliefs tight. Have a belief, but when knowledge comes through, let the beliefs go.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is that we're all flawed in our beliefs, and we have to update them, and that's okay.
Yes, frequently.
Nothing wrong with that. That's part of it. I think we have a big fear of being wrong sometimes. You know what I mean?
I'm wrong every day, guys. It'll be fine.
That's all I do is be wrong, but also
like it's my job.
It's my job. I do feel like it's kind of our job to be wrong. Like if we were supposed to be right, I think we would have been doing it a little different already, right?
The truth is constantly evolving, so let it evolve.
Gotta make the wrong steps. All right. Well, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Sabian. Spacebug. Oh my gosh, thanks for bringing some awesome people today and all the subjects and moderating too. You had some really good questions and like you're moving the conversation in different ways. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, team.
Alpha Pack.
Out, universe.
All right, see you guys.
Later.